Welcome, hackers and slashers. Today on Dragons and Dice, we're going over the new Barbarian and Fighter classes. Welcome to Dragons and Dice. It's time to get angry. We're going to start it off with the Barbarian, and your first feature starting at level 1 is what most of the class is based off of, and that's your Rage. And starting out, you're going to get 2 uses of this, and your strength-based attacks are going to get +2 weapon damage to that. The next thing you get is Unarmored Defense, and this lets you add your Constitution modifier and your Dexterity modifier to your armor class, as long as you're not wearing any armor. The last feature you get at level 1 will be you get to pick 2 of the new weapons masteries that you'll be proficient with. At level 2, the Barbarians get Spidey Senses, except it's called Danger Sense, and this means that anytime that you make a Dexterity save, you get to roll with advantage. The other thing you get at level 2 is your Reckless Attacks, and this gives you the option of choosing to have advantage on the attacks you make. The caveat to this is that all enemies that hit you with a melee attack before the start of your next turn also have advantage on their attacks against you. Level 3 brings us Primal Knowledge. You get another skill proficiency, and you also get a third use of your Rage. Level 4 is where you get your stat point increase, or if you want, you can choose a feat. And the other thing you get is you get to pick a third weapon mastery at this level. At level 5, you get a couple of things. You get the extra attack, so now when you take the attack action on your turn, you can attack twice instead of once, and you get fast movement. And this gives you an extra 10 foot of speed as long as you aren't wearing heavy armor, so you can really get around that battlefield. At level 6, you're going to get a subclass feature, and you're going to get an extra Rage, so now you'll have 4. At level 7, you get 2 more features. You get Instinctive Pounce, and this means that when you enter your Rage as a bonus action, you can move up to half your speed and you don't give up opportunity attacks. The other level 7 feature is Feral Instinct, and this lets you have advantage on your initiative rolls. At level 8, you get your next stat point increase. And at level 9, you get Brutal Strikes, and this is taking the place of the old skill Brutal Criticals. Now when you use your Reckless Attack, you can forego the advantage on one attack roll of your choice, and it can't have advantage from any other source. If it hits, you can add 1d10 extra damage at the top of damage done, and you get to cause one of the Brutal Strike effects. The first one is Forceful Blow. If you choose this one and hit, the target is pushed 15 feet straight away from you. Then you can move up to half your speed straight toward the target without provoking opportunity attacks, so you can really blow a frontliner to the back line with a couple attacks on this one. The other one is called Hamstring Blow, and if you hit this target, their speed is reduced by 15 until the start of your next turn, and you can only have one hamstring on a target at a time. The most recent takes precedent. The last feature you get at level 9 is that the extra damage on your Rage bonus when you make your melee attacks goes up from 2 to 3. At level 10, you get an extra weapon mastery. That'll put you up to 4, and this will be the max number of weapon masteries you get as a Barbarian. At level 11, you get Relentless Rage. The way this feature works is if your HP drops to 0, you can do a Constitution saving throw. It starts off at a DC 10, and if you pass, instead of dropping to 0 HP, your HP will drop to twice your Barbarian level. You can do this as many times as you can pass the save, but each time that you are knocked to 0 and try to pass the save, it goes up by 5. So the second time you die, it would be 15, third 20, and so on. This resets to a counter of DC 10 at a short rest or a long rest. Level 12 gives you another stat points increase, and you get an extra Rage. And then level 13, you get a new ability called Improved Brutal Strikes, and you get more options added into your Brutal Strike list for when you make those attacks. The first one is called Staggering Blow. The target has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes, and it can't make opportunity attacks until the start of your next turn. Or you can add in Sundering Blow. Before the start of your next turn, the next attack roll made by another creature against the target gets +5 bonus to the roll. A creature can only be affected by one Sunder at a time. At level 15, Persistent Rage gets a buff. When you roll initiative, you can regain all uses of Rage. You have to finish a long rest before you can use this feature again. The other thing is your Rage now lasts for 10 minutes without you needing to make attacks or be attacked. So it's just always going for 10 minutes once you pop it. At level 16, you get your next stat point increase, and the bonus damage to your rage attacks goes up to 4. At level 17, you get another rage, which puts you up to 6, and this will be the max number of rages you get as a barbarian. You also get improved brutal strikes. Now when you do a brutal strike, you can add 2d10 to the attack, and you can pick 2 of the brutal strike features when you activate it. At level 18, if you do a strength check or a strength save, and you roll lower than what your actual strength number is, not the modifier, you can take whichever is higher. So if you have 18 strength and you roll a 3, you can just put 18 as the check, which is going to be really nice. It's going to be hard for you at this point with that many stat point increases to fail a strength check. Level 19 will be the epic boon for all classes. And then the capstone for the barbarian at level 20, you get to add +4 to your con stat and +4 to your strength stat. And this can go up to a max of 25. So you basically get 8 skill points at level 20, which is pretty cool. That's the base barbarian. We've got 4 subclasses to go through, just like all of them. We're going to go with the berserker, the wild heart, the world tree, and the zealot. Let's check them out. The Berserker is up first, and if you ever want to play a Viking Raider or maybe the Incredible Hulk, this would be the guy for you. These are the guys that rage out the hardest. The first ability you get at level 3 is called Frenzy, and this has changed from the old player's handbook. Used to, you could make an extra attack as a bonus attack on your turn. Now, when you hit with an attack on your turn, you can use this ability, and you get to add d6 equal to your rage bonus. So starting out, that'll be 2d6 to the attack. At level 9, that'll go to 3d6, and at level 16, that'll go to 4d6 that you can add on to the attack. At level 6, you get the Mindless Rage feature, and this means that you can't be feared or charmed, and it will also remove the fear and charm effect from you if you rage while under that status effect. And those do not come back after your rage wears out. It just removes them. That's the new feature that they added to this. Level 10, it used to be Intimidating Presence, but that's been moved up to level 14. Now you get a feature called Retaliation. When you take damage from a creature that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to make a melee attack against it. At level 14, this is where Intimidating Presence is moved to, and it got a buff. You can still frighten one creature for 1 minute. Now when you use this ability, the spell save is going to be based off your strength instead of your charisma, which is going to be a nice upgrade for a barbarian who's always strength heavy. Well, that's all the features that the Berserker subclass of barbarians get. It's a fairly simple class. Get mad, hit stuff real hard. That being said, barbarians are always fun to roleplay in and out of combat. And this would be a great character starting out if you've never played D&D before to get your feet wet with how the melee systems work in D&D. Next up, we have a new subclass. It's called the Wild Heart. And if you've ever wanted to play a druid, but you were just too pissed off all the time to remember how spells work, this would be one for you. This is a nature barbarian. At level 3, you're going to get 2 features. The first one is called Animal Speaker, and this lets you cast the Beast Sense and the Speak with Animal spells as rituals. The other feature you get is called Ranger of the Wild, and this lets you tap into the power of animals. When you rage out, you can pick bear, eagle, or wolf. The bear will give you resistance to every type of damage except force, psychic, necrotic, and radiant. The eagle lets you take the disengage and dash action as part of a bonus action. And yes, you get to do both. You get to disengage and dash as one bonus action. Rogues eat your heart out. The wolf gives you pack tactics, and that will give you advantage on any attack roll if you've got an ally within 5 feet of you when you make that attack roll. At level 6, you get Aspects of the Wild, and you get to pick one of these at the end of a long rest: owl, panther, or salmon. The owl will give you plus 60 feet of dark vision, and it stacks if you already have dark vision. The panther will give you a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. And the salmon will give you a swim speed equal to your walking speed. At level 10, you get the ability to commune with nature, and you can cast that spell as a ritual. So let's go over the commune with nature spell. You get to become one with nature, and you gain knowledge of your surrounding territories. If you're outdoors, you can do this in an area up to 3 miles from where you're at. If you're in caves or underground, it has a 300-foot range. And if you're in dungeons and towns, the spell doesn't work. But if you're in an area where it does, when you gain this knowledge, you get to pick 3 facts as they relate to the area. And those facts can pertain to terrains and bodies of water, prevalent plants, minerals, animals, or people that are there, powerful celestials, fays, fiends, elementals, or undead, and influences from other planes of existence, so maybe portals to another place. And it will also tell you if there's any large buildings in the area. For example, if you cast this, you might find out that there's a temple with an evil lich in it, and that about 1.5 miles to the south, there's also a town. You can go sell all that loot after you bash his head in. The last feature that this subclass gets is at level 14, and it's called Power of the Wilds. When you rage, you get to pick one of the following: the falcon, the lion, or the ram. If you pick the falcon, you get a fly speed if you aren't wearing armor. As the lion, you can impose disadvantage on enemies within 5 feet of you if they try to attack someone other than you. And as the ram, you can cause a large creature or smaller to fall prone when you hit it with a melee attack. This barbarian subclass is all about taking on aspects of animals, and if that's something you're into, it looks like it would be a really fun class to play in combat. I don't know how the subclass features would really give you much to do outside of combat, but who knows, maybe you work something out with your DM that when you rage in the city, you take on one of these aspects and you look more like a bear or you look like an owl. It could be some fun role play to spice up the class a little bit. Just be something to work out with your DM. The next barbarian subclass is the Path of the World Tree, and you draw on Yggdrasil for vitality and travel. At level 3, you get Vitality Surge. When you rage, you get temp HP equal to your barbarian level. You also get a life-giving force, where you can pick another creature that's within 10 feet of you that will also gain temp HP. You roll d6 for this temp HP based off of your rage modifier. So if you're getting +2 rage damage, you would roll 2d6, 3, you roll 3d6, and if you're up to level 16 where your rage is +4, you would roll 4d6, and that character would get that much temp HP. At level 6, you get a feature called Branches of the Tree. When a creature you can see starts its turn within 30 feet of you while your rage is active, you can use your reaction to summon spectral branches of the world tree around it, and it must make a strength save versus your spell DC that is based off strength. So DC of 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength mod. If it fails, it's teleported to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you, and then you can reduce its movement speed to 0 for that turn. This seems like it would be super useful to me. You can literally grab an enemy, just pull it to you, and lock it down for a turn. Really lets you dictate where people are on the battlefield. This ability doesn't have any limit on how many times you can do this. It is just your reaction, and you could do this every turn if you didn't want to take opportunity attacks or use your reaction for some other ability. At level 10, you get the Battering Roots ability, and on your turn, your reach is increased by 10 feet for any melee weapon that has the heavy or versatile property, as tendrils of the world tree extend from you when you swing it. When you hit on your turn with this, you can also activate the Push or Topple Mastery property in addition to whatever other weapons mastery that you have on that weapon. At level 14, you get your last of the subclass features for this one. It's called Travel Along the Tree. And when you activate your rage, and as a bonus action on each turn after that, you can teleport 60 feet to an open place that you can see. Also, 1 time per rage, you can teleport yourself and 6 willing creatures of your choice up to 150 feet to an area that you can see, and the creatures land within a 10-foot area of where you land. Of the 4 barbarian subclasses they've given us, this is probably my favorite. I'm a sucker for teleportation, and the fact that you can just jump 6 people along with you at level 15, and the action economy of being able to use your reaction to teleport people to you and your bonus action to teleport away. Seems like this would be a very fluid and fun barbarian class to play. If I ever get to run one, this is probably what I would pick. The last of our barbarian subclasses will be the Path of the Zealot, and these are the Divine Barbarians. At level 3, you get Divine Fury, and you can add either radiant or necrotic damage to the first creature that you hit on each of your turn while your rage is active. It starts off as 1d6 plus 1/2 your barbarian level rounded down. The other level 3 feature you get is called Warrior of the Gods, and this has been reworked entirely. The old ability would allow people to raise you without material components, and that was it. It was kind of lame. Now it's kind of awesome. A divine entity helps you stay alive. You get 4 D12s that on a bonus action, you can roll and use like hit die to just heal yourself up. And you get these back at a long rest, and they increase as you level up. You get 5 die at level 6, 6 die at level 12, and if you make it all the way to 17, you will have 7 D12s that you can just roll as a bonus action to heal yourself up. I think this is a really nice upgrade. Starting at level 6, you get Fantastical Focus. And if you fail a save, you can re-roll it and add your rage damage bonus to the new roll. You do have to use whatever the new roll is. At level 10, you get Zealous Presence. And as a bonus action, you can let out a battle cry, and 10 creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you gain advantage on attack rolls and saving throws until your next turn. This ability recharges on a long rest, but if you want to use it again, you can expend one of your rages and get the ability back. Level 14 capstone for this subclass is now called Rage of the Gods. It used to be Rage Beyond Death, and that was where your rage wouldn't let you die, basically, and you could keep fighting as long as you kept passing your death saving throws. But they've changed that now. Now when you cast this Rage of the Gods, you can take the form of a Divine Warrior. You get a fly speed with hover equal to your speed, your resistance to radiant, necrotic, and psychic damage. You get Revivification, and when a creature you see within 30 feet would drop to 0, you can use a reaction and expend a use of your rage to change that creature's hit points to a number equal to your barbarian level. So at least 14, because that's the first level that you get this ability. I think the subclass would be a fun one to play. The way that they've factored in having a divinity and something that helps you channel your power always adds another NPC into the game and makes roleplay more fun. Plus, the abilities that this barbarian gets are really nice. You get to do a lot of things, and getting to heal yourself with D12s as a bonus action seems like it would be really strong for a barbarian. Now it's time for our homebrew item of the week. This week's homebrewed item is the grappling glove. And first off, I have to give a shout out to one of my PCs. His name's Boot McPussin. He's a Tabaxi assassin rogue. It was his idea to come up with this item, and then we fleshed it out together. This is a glove made of quadruple stitched leather with adamantium reels and bolts, and it has a harness to keep your arms from getting ripped off. The threads use ultra high tensile strength spider silk, and they come in 3 different weights: a 200 pound, a 500 pound, and a 1,000 pound. Each grappling hook is fired by a charged gem, and these gems are charged with spell slots. The lowest weight takes 2 spell slots to recharge, the middle takes 4 spell slots, and the highest tensile strength grappling hook takes 8 spell slots to recharge after fired. The flavor on using the grappling glove is that you use a finger gun to fire it, you use a fist to reel it in, and then when you want the glove to release the grappling hook, you give it the old middle finger. If you shoot an enemy with the grappling glove, you've got to make an attack roll versus their AC, and on a hit, the lighter will be pulled toward the heavier. Then we'll do an athletics or acrobatics challenge, and whoever loses will be clotheslined and knocked prone. I've set this glove to work off the cunning action abilities of rogues. If you had this in your game and didn't have a rogue that was using it, I would probably make each of these abilities take an action to do. This is a very fun in and out of combat item. You will end up with some crazy things happening, especially if you have creative players like Mr. Boots is, where they go flying around town and try to grapple hook everything in the world and mess up a lot of times. It makes for a good day. Another fun thing about this item is it can be one of those mini quests where they have to go and gather the materials to make this and find someone that can create it for them. So they would need 3 big gems, some nice leather, some spider silk, and some adamantine bolts, and then they could craft it themselves, and that's a whole lot of questing to go and get all those things. Add one of these into your game, let everyone argue over who wants to be Batman, and everyone knows, I am Batman. The next class we're going over is a D&D original, and that's the Fighter. And they're going to give you 4 subclasses. You'll get to pick between the Battle Master, the Champion, the Eldritch Knight, or the Psy Warrior. I'm going to break down each of those subclasses, but before we do that, let's check out the features of the base Fighter class. Starting out at level 1 as a fighter, you're going to get your second wind, you're going to get to pick 3 weapons masteries, and then you're going to pick your fighting style feat. These are as follows. You get archery, and that gives you +2 bonus to your attack rolls you make with ranged weapons. You can pick blind fighting, and you have blind sight within a range of 10 feet. You can pick the defensive fighting style, and if you're wearing light, medium, or heavy armor, you get +1 to your AC. You can pick dueling, and if you're holding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain +2 to the damage rolls with that weapon. You can pick the great weapon fighting style feat. When you roll damage for an attack you make with a melee weapon that you're holding in 2 hands, you can take any 1 or 2 and treat it as a 3. You can get the interception style of fighting. When a creature you can see hits another creature within 5 feet of you with an attack roll, you can take your reaction to reduce the damage dealt to that creature by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus. You do have to be holding a shield or a simple martial weapon to use this reaction. You can take the protection fighting style. When a creature you can see attacks a target other than you that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your shield and you impose disadvantage on that attack and all other attack rolls against the creature that you're protecting for the round. There's the thrown weapon fighting style feat, and when you make a ranged attack roll using a weapon that has a thrown property, you get +2 to the damage that you do. There's the 2 weapon fighting feat. When you make an extra attack as a result of the weapon that has a light property, you can add your ability modifiers onto the damage of that attack. You can take unarmed fighting, and when you hit with unarmed strikes, you deal damage that can be bludgeoning, and it's equal to 1d6 plus your strength mod instead of the normal damage of an unarmed attack. If you aren't holding any weapons or a shield when you make the attack roll, the d6 becomes a d8. And if you have this feat and you're grappling someone, at the start of each of your turn, you can deal 1d4 to any creature that you're grappling. So these are the fighting style feats that each of the fighters get, and you'll get to pick a couple extras as you level up. So let's hop into the next thing that they get when they hit level 2. Starting at level 2, you get your action surge, and this lets you take 1 extra action when you use this cooldown. The other feature you get at this level is a new one, and it's called Tactical Mind. You can now use your second wind to give yourself a d10 that you're going to add to an ability check instead of for healing. And here's the best part. If this check fails, the second wind isn't used. I think this is a really nice upgrade to second wind. Was mostly used right after combat or in combat, and now you can use it to make things better in town if you're trying to persuade people. And I'm always a fan of characters getting more fun, useful abilities that aren't used just for combat. At level 3 is where you'll get to pick your subclass, and then at level 4 you get your stat point increase, you get an additional weapon mastery, and you get another use of second wind so that you now have 3. At level 5 is your second attack, which is always great. Then you get another new feature, and it's called Tactical Shift. And when you activate your second wind, you can move half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. At level 6, fighters get another stat point increase, and then again at level 8, and then starting at level 9, you get Indomitable. And it's been boosted a bit. You can re-roll a failed saving throw. But now when you do this, you get to add a bonus that is equal to your fighter level to the new roll. And since you get this ability at level 9, that's a +9 right off the start. And this recharges on a long rest. You also get a new ability here called Tactical Master. And when you hit with a weapon that has a mastery on it, you can replace that mastery with the Push, Sap, or Slow weapon mastery. And Push does exactly like it sounds, pushes something 10 feet away from you. Sap gives the creature disadvantage on its next attack roll, and Slow reduces its speed by 10 feet. When you hit level 10, you get to pick a 5th weapon mastery, and you get another use of your second wind. When you hit level 11, you get 2 extra attacks now instead of 1. Level 12 is your stat point increase, and then when you hit level 13, you get an extra use of Indomitable, and you get a new one called Study Attacks. And Study Attacks is, if you make an attack roll and miss, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature you missed before the end of your next turn. At level 14, you get another stat point increase, and then you get another stat point increase again at level 16. And at level 16, you also get your last weapon mastery, and that gives you a total of 6. At level 17, you get an extra use of your Indomitable ability. Level 19 will be your Epic Boon, And then at level 20 for your capstone, you get another extra attack, giving you a total of 3. So when you take the attack action, you get to hit 4 times. Now let's hop into the subclasses, and we're going to kick it off with a classic, the Battlemaster. Up first is the Battlemasters, and these are the guys that turn that grid into a chessboard. At level 3, you get your main subclass feature, and that's Combat Superiority. You get to learn maneuvers that are powered by your D8 Superiority die. You get 4 of these starting off. You're going to gain an extra Superiority die at level 7 and 15 for a total of 6. You get all these back when you finish a short or a long rest, and you get to use these die to perform Battlemaster maneuvers. You get to pick 3 maneuvers off the start, and we'll go over those so you can see which ones you like. Up first, we have Bait and Switch. With this, you can swap places with a willing creature that's within 5 feet of you. It costs you 5 feet of movement. This does not provoke opportunity attacks. Then you get to roll your superiority die, and until the start of the next turn, you and the person that you swapped with get to add that to your AC. This is one of the new ones. You get Commander Strike, and you give up one of your attacks. You point at someone that you can see, and you let them use their reaction to make 1 weapon attack. You have to roll the superiority die, and that gets added into the damage. You can pick Commanding Presence, and when you make an Intimidation, Performance, or Persuasion check, you can spin the die and add it to that check. You can use Disarming Attack. When you hit a creature, you can spin the die and attempt to disarm them. Roll the die and add that to the attack's damage. Then they must make a Strength saving throw, and on a fail, they are disarmed or drop the item that you were targeting. You can use Distracting Strike. You spend a die, and on a hit, you get to add it to the damage. The next attack roll against that target by a different player has advantage. This has to happen before the start of your next turn. There's Evasive Footwork, and this one's a little bit different. It takes a bonus action, and it gives you the ability to take the Disengage action. You roll the die, and then you get to add it to your AC until the next turn. There's the Feigning Attack. You use the die to give yourself advantage on the next attack of this turn. You roll the die, and it gets added into the damage. The Goading Attack, you roll the die, add the damage on the hit, then the creature must make a Wisdom saving throw or have disadvantage on everyone but you, so it's basically a taunt. You can use the Maneuvering Attack, roll a die, add the damage, and then you get to choose a creature that can hear or see, and it can use its reaction to move up half its speed without taking opportunity attacks, which will be really nice for helping your teammates get out of danger. There's Menacing Attacks, same as the others. Roll the die, add the damage. Then the target must make a Wisdom save or be frightened until the end of your next turn. You can use the Parry Maneuver. When you get hit with a melee attack, you can take a reaction and reduce the damage by the number that you roll on the die, plus your strength or dex mod, your choice. This is a little bit different. It used to be only dex based for the extra damage reduction, so they added strength in, which is nice. There's Precision Attack, and this is for if you really need to hit someone. You roll your superiority die, and you add that to the hit on an attack. There's the Pushing Attack. On a hit, you add the die to the damage, and the target must make a strength save or be pushed 15 feet straight away from you. You can use the Rally Maneuver. As a bonus action, you roll the dice, and you either give yourself or an ally within 30 feet temp HP equal to the die roll, plus half your fighter level rounded down. You can riposte, and when you get hit by a melee, you can counterattack as your reaction. You roll the die, and you get to add that in to the damage on that hit. You can use the Sweeping Attack Maneuver. This lets you, when you hit, use a superiority die and attempt to hit a creature that's within 5 feet of the first target and is still in your range. You keep the original to hit roll, and if that would beat the AC of the second monster, you deal damage to the second monster equal to what you rolled on the superiority die. It'd be interesting to see how much damage you could stack with this if you had a weapon mastery that had cleave, and so you were already hitting people beside it. It'd be a good way to stack up some AoE damage as a fighter. You can use the Tactical Assessment Maneuver. And when you make a history, investigation, or insight check, you can drop that die and add that number to the check. And the last one is the Trip Attack. And if you hit, you knock the target prone, and you get to add that die to the damage that you do. The other level 3 feature you get is called Student of War, and you gain proficiency with one set of artisan tools of your choice, and you get to pick another skill that was in your list of fighter skills. Those are acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, persuasion, perception, and survival. so just a little extra proficiency there for you. At level 7, you get Know Your Enemy, and as a bonus action, you can discern certain strengths and weaknesses about who you're fighting. You must be able to see the target, and it has to be within 30 feet of you, and then you find out what immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities it has. You get this one time a day for free, or you can use a superiority die and use it again. At level 10, you get Improved Combat Superiority, and this just means that your superiority dies are now D10s instead of D8s. At level 15, you get the feature called Relentless, and this is going to be a really nice feature for a fighter. One time per turn, when you use a maneuver, you can roll a D8 instead of your superiority die, and it doesn't expend the die. So you basically get to do your maneuvers on the lower tier of D8 die instead of D10 that you have at this point without ever expending them. And then if you need a little more oomph behind that maneuver, you can roll the D10 for it. At level 18, you get Ultimate Combat Superiority. Now your superiority die turn into D12s. I love the Battle Master subclass for fighters. I think if you're looking for a non-caster that's got a really complex level of combat to play, this will be the one for you. It's got to be at the top of that list. With all the weapons that fighters get to use and the introduction of weapon masteries, the Battle Master is going to be able to move the tide of battle and strategically manipulate the party's advantage in every single fight. This is a subclass that'll end up being the general on the field and not just another foot soldier. Time for the champion. These fighters are the gladiators and the heroes of old, and they focus on dominating combat with their physical prowess. At level 3, you're going to get 2 features. You get the Improved Critical, and this lets you score critical hits on a 19 and a 20, and then you get Remarkable Athlete. And thanks to how athletic you are, you have advantage on initiative rolls and athletics checks, and when you score a critical, you can move half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. At level 7, you get to take a second fighting style feat of your choice. And then at level 10, you get the Heroic Warrior feature. And this means that you live for the thrill of battle. During combat, you can give yourself heroic inspiration whenever you start a turn without it. This means that you have one use of heroic inspiration every single turn in combat, which is absolutely insane because you can use that to give yourself advantage on attacks, advantage on a saving throw, anywhere you need it. It seems like it'll be broken and awesome at the same time. Level 15 gives you superior criticals, and you crit on 18, 19, and 20 now. Level 18 capstone for this class is called Survivor, and here you get 2 things. You get Defy Death that gives you advantage on death saving throws, and when you roll an 18, 19, or 20, it counts as a 20 and you pop up with 1 HP. And you also get Heroic Rally. Each turn that you start where you are bloodied, and that means you're under half HP, you regain 5 HP plus your con mod. This does not happen though if you are at 0 and incapacitated. So for this subclass, if the Battle Masters were playing chess on the battlefield, these guys are picking up that chessboard and bashing everything they see on their way through it, because that's what they do. They just run through and wreck things. This is going to be a really simple class to play, and it's going to be very combat heavy. So if that's what you're looking for, or if you're playing a one-shot and just want to mess some stuff up, this would be a really good option for doing that. Now it's time for the Eldritch Knight, and these are the fighters that will freeze you in place and smack you with a sword to boot. A great blend of support and offensive spells to go with the martial abilities that all fighters get make these guys really fun to play. Let's check them out. So starting at level 3, you get spellcasting. Sadly, you won't be throwing out fireballs for a while, but you do get a lot of stuff that make these fighters shine. Starting off, you're going to get 2 wizard cantrips, and at level 3, you're going to have 2 level 1 spell slots that you can prepare 3 spells from the wizard spell list for. The number of spells you can have prepared and cast goes up as you level up. You get level 2 spells when you hit level 7. You can cast level 3 spells when you make it to level 13. And if your campaign goes all the way up to level 19, you're going to get 1 level 4 spell slot. Your casting ability for these is Intelligence, and you do need an arcane focus to do this. And each time you level up, you can swap out which spells you have prepared from the wizard list. The second feature you get at level 3 is called War Bond. And you learn a ritual that takes 1 hour to cast, and it bonds your weapon to you. You can do this during a short rest and still get to roll your hit die. You have a weapon with you, and it can't be bound to another fighter or attuned to a different player. And when you do this ritual with that weapon, you can't be disarmed unless incapacitated. And if the weapon is on the same plane of existence as you are, you can use a bonus action to summon it to you. and you can bond up to 2 weapons this way, but you can only summon 1 with a bonus action. Something I would do as a DM if I had one of these at my table, I would let this ritual also turn that weapon into the arcane focus for your Eldritch Knight. That way, when they come up and they want to make an attack and then cast a cantrip or a spell later on, they don't have to try to go through the rigmarole of pulling out an arcane focus. I would just let the weapon serve as that. But I don't know how strict everyone is with that sort of thing. That's the way I like to play it. At level 7, you get War Magic. And when you take the attack action, you can replace one of your melee attacks with one of your wizard cantrips that's a casting time of 1 action. So you can Shocking Grasp a dude and then stab him in the heart on the same turn. At level 10, you get Eldritch Strike. And when you hit with a weapon, you can make that creature more susceptible to your magic attacks. The creature has disadvantage on saving throws against spells that you cast before the end of your next turn. At level 15, you get a feature called Arcane Charge, and I love this one, because when you use your Action Surge ability, you can teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space, and you can do this before or after the additional action that your Action Surge gives. So it's really nice because you can hop in there, do your thing, and then you can teleport out after your Action Surge without taking an opportunity attack. Level 18, your capstone feature is Improved War Magic. And now when you take the attack action, you can replace 2 of your attacks on that turn with 1 wizard spell. The wizard spell has to have an action to cast. So instead of getting to do a cantrip, you can come in, attack, and then drop a big spell on them. This is one of those subclasses that I've always loved more in theory than in action. It's a really stat-hungry class. I think if I was going to build this, I'd go one of 2 ways. I would probably either do a dex-based fighter and dump strength, and that way I could focus on dex, intelligence, and constitution, and that way your spells would have good attack hits and not be as easy to save against. Or the other option is I just wouldn't take any offensive spells, and I would just dump int and build a fighter just like normal with strength, con, and dex, and then I would just take defensive and buff spells that didn't have spell attacks or saves involved. I would do like Blade Ward and Booming Blade for the cantrips. First level spells do Absorb Elements, Shield, and probably Featherfall. They're all reactions, so that's always, handy to use. And then when I got to 2nd level, I would do something like Blur and Mirror Image. It would make a really tanky and durable fighter. You'd be really hard to hit, and it'd be a real pain in your DM's butt, which is always nice. Now it's time for the Psi Warrior. And if they can't kill you with their weapon, they'll go River Tandem on you, and they'll kill you with their mind. At level 3, you get Psionic Power. This is the fuel source for your subclass. You have psionic energy, and this is represented by your psionic energy die. The number and size of these die change as you level up. Starting off at level 3, you get 4d6 to use. At level 5, that'll go to 6d8. At level 9, it goes up again to 8d8. At 11, the die go to D10, and you still have 8 of them. And at 13, you get 10D10. And if you make it all the way to 17, they cap out at 12D12, which is a lot. Right off the rip at level 3, you get 3 things to spend these on. You get the Protective Field, the Psionic Strike, and the Telekinetic Movement. Up first, the Protective Field. When you or someone you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to roll a psionic die and reduce the damage by that roll, plus what your intelligence modifier is. The Psionic Strike, you use your mind to swing harder. One time each of your turns, immediately after you hit a target that's within 30 feet of you, you can roll the die and add that much force damage plus your intelligence mod to that damage. And then Telekinetic Movement, you can move an object or a creature with your mind as a magic action. The object has to be loose and has to be size large or smaller. And if you pick a creature, it has to be willing to move. It has to be within 30 feet of you, and you can move it up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space. If the object is tiny, you can move it from your hand or you can summon it to your hand. And you can do this once for free each long rest, or you can spend one of your psionic energy dies and recharge it. At level 7, you get Telekinetic Adept, and you get 2 new ways to use your telekinetic ability. You get a psi-powered leap, and as a bonus action, you can give yourself a fly speed equal to twice your speed. This only lasts for the current turn, and it recharges on a short or long rest. But you can use your psionic die to refill it. The other ability you get here is called telekinetic thrust, and when you deal damage to a target with your psionic strike, you can force the target to make a strength saving throw versus your spell save, which is intelligence for this class. On a fail, you can either knock the target prone or you can transport it 10 feet horizontally. Your level 10 feature is called the Guarded Mind. You're now resistant to psychic damage, and if you start a turn frightened or charmed, you can use one of your psionic die to end the effect. The nice part about this is that it's free action, so you would still get to use that turn. At level 15, you get the Bulwark of Force. You can shield yourself with telekinetic energy, and as a bonus action, you and a number of creatures equal to your intelligence mod that were within 30 feet of you get half cover. This recharges on a long rest, or like the other abilities in this class, you can expend a psionic die and use that to recharge it. The level 18 capstone for the Psi Fighter is the Telekinetic Master, and you always have the telekinesis spell prepared, and with this feature, you can cast it without a spell slot or with components. Your intelligence is going to be your governing attribute for this. And on each turn, while you are concentrating on this, and on the turn that you cast it, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action. You can use this ability one time per long rest, and like everything else in this class, you can recharge it with your die. I think this is a really interesting subclass. I like the idea of the mind-powered warrior. Seems like it'd be fun. A lot of flavor and things you could do in and out of combat with that. I do wish there were a couple things changed about it, maybe like they did with the Artificer or Hexblade Warlock, where they would let your attacks work off of something besides strength and dex, because this class does not have the option of dumping intelligence. A lot of your abilities work off of it. All that being said, you are still a fighter, and you do get the extra stat point increases, so you can feed that into intelligence and have the stats you need for it. I like the 4 subclasses they gave us starting out. I do think it's interesting that they picked 2 intelligence-based fighter classes. I would have hoped to see a little bit more variety in that, maybe have the Rune Knight or the Echo Knight, as those are 2 classes that people really like. But there's always room for expansion, and that's the way this D&D game goes. There'll always be new stuff coming out. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Dragons and Dice. Thanks for listening, and if you like what we're doing here, please like, subscribe, or leave a review. It really helps with exposure of a new show. So until next time, may your D20s roll high, and may your DMs be kind.